Good morning, everyone. I wish to thank Maria Eduarda for involving me in this symposium. It was an opportunity to reflect more in depth on the situations that we are experiencing. Preparing for this presentation has taken a long time and it's been demanding on me. It originates from what we are doing at the Larios laboratory with my colleagues, where we always bear in mind a wish to give contribution to the times that we're living. There have been moments of discouragement when we were studying the data in the literature. And my feeling is that we are confronting a tsunami which is coming at us and which is very clearly attacking us, at least in Italy. It is clear that the risk society is among us and has a strong hold on us. According to some researchers, it is characterized by three features. Globality, which makes it at least made it look distant. Invisibility, which makes its consequences not immediately seen. And the need to have specialized knowledge, which not all people can have. So this allowed us to feel this situation as far away from us, but things are not actually so. Thinking all this over, I truly experienced deep anxiety and a sense of hopelessness, and I wondered what I could possibly do. While I was studying and preparing this talk, I kept hearing in my mind the words that Salvatore Soresi read to me while we were on a train on our way to a conference in Rome about the future of counseling. He was reading Alain Touraine, and the words are those you have already heard. After the crisis, catastrophe will come. So in my presentation, I would like to provide you with three main points. First of all, three main reflections of mine. Then I will give you some data, and hopefully in the third part I will share with you some remarks concerning the fallout of these data on practice. The first aspect is this: the risk society is indeed here. We are surrounded by it, and newspapers and TVs underline this every day in Italy. In this respect, I would like to show you how in the literature, at least in the medical and psychological publications, the issue of the economic crisis have actually rocketed in the last 2 years. Psychologists and doctors who are studying these problems have highlighted that we are witnessing an increase in depression, substance abuse, and suicides, and also an increase in discrimination to the disadvantage of women in particular and of individuals with disability. Even the old factors that we psychologists at least consider as protective, like being married, are no longer really protective. They are becoming factors of further risk, making people's situations even worse. Moreover, young people that have been in a condition of unemployment for at least a year show a significant increase in their behavioral problems, their drug abuse and criminal behaviors. And, opposite to what we might expect, to what good sense would have, we must try and do something about it, organizations, companies and public bodies are drastically reducing their financial involvement in research and development. So it's quite clear that bleak feelings are on the increase, and also a sense of depression is on the increase. Some research has shown that common people, the people that are generally interviewed in the streets, express more and more frequently a sense of depression. They feel exploited, basically. They think the power is in the hands of few people, and they feel that we have no longer the collective social strength to tackle the real problems. Politics seems indeed to be powerless. This is what we think in Italy, that politics is a very random kind of movement. It is as if, at least in some areas of the population, nothing can be done against this situation. And indeed, the World Health Organization is warning against the risk of depression, at least in the Western countries, due also to the loss of a major idea, and this causes greater depression. That is, that the economic context we are used to is crumbling very fast. This is the first terrible feeling I got while I was reviewing the literature. The second aspect I would like to underline is that people that become unemployed find themselves not only in a difficult situation because they have lost their job, but they also feel very much discriminated against. Indeed, there is a stigma hanging over them. They are seen by others as less able people. It is their fault if they lost their job, and they blame themselves too. This is not so much perhaps the case with workers, but it certainly is with white collars, the middle class, where the stigma is really very, very great. There are those who even say that some legal protection should be arranged for these individuals. According to some researchers, we are creating here a social class with little hope to recoup their social status, and this cannot but increase the sense of depression. Let's also bear in mind that these people are the parents of our teenagers and of the children of our society. The third aspect I would like to point out is the conditions in which working people find themselves in many professional environments. Without wasting too many words, I would like to read this letter to you. It was written by the women who work as cashiers for a chain of Italian supermarkets. They sent it to an actress who was supposed to advertise these supermarkets. And so, this is what they wrote. Do you know what is behind the smile of a cashier who asks how many bags you need? A very small wage, not even a paycheck of 700 euros per month, to work 7 days a week, including all the Sundays of the month. It's hard to get along, but you get used to it. In any case, do we have an alternative? We earn little and we work a lot. But this is not all. We are the great majority of those who work here. We account for 80% of the staff. But the power is in the hands of the men, and there is no cooperation. Let me give you an example. If we want to go to the bathroom, we have to ask for permission. And because there never is enough staff, we may have to wait for hours before being able to get there. Precarious work is certainly a widespread condition, and it can happen that you are sent packing from one day to the next. We live a condition of daily blackmail. We always fear that we might get sacked, and we are forced to accept all decisions that are made about us. For example, let's talk about shifts. Your shift can be changed at a moment's notice simply with a phone call, and you have to swallow it. And who cares about your family if your loved ones are neglected, and if you can no longer manage your children? Denouncing or even just discussing decisions that concern you is far from easy. We even have to suffer in silence harassment coming from our bosses in order to save our jobs. This is true for workers, but not only for them. Precariousness and exploitation are on the increase and are affecting those that in the past, perhaps even today but don't know about that, were considered as prestigious jobs. In Italy, we have school teachers and university researchers who don't have a wage, and actually they take to the streets to protest. We also have young lawyers who are considered as slaves on a VAT number. We have architects that are paid a pittance as occasional consultants. But we also have doctors that work on a VAT number, and precarious nurses who work more than their staff colleagues, and they publicly protest in the streets. Maybe the idea itself of prestige is changing. Even the most prestigious jobs are experiencing these kinds of changes. The third point I would bring to your attention has to do with the fact that very likely not only the future is no longer what it used to be, but work too is no longer what it used to be. Perhaps you are experiencing, even without being aware of it, and this greatly upsets me, we are witnessing a downgrading of people's work. Workers are increasingly being considered as the working plebs, easily discarded, disposable workforce. We watch television and maybe start to think that workers are poor devils. They are losers. Maybe we are creating a new social representation of work and workers. But is this the social representation that we want? Do we really want workers to be represented like this? What is the impact that this can have on our teenagers, for instance, who do live in this world and witness all this, and certainly are starting to absorb it? Following these premises, my question was then, what can I do? How can we help adolescents who are going to experience more and more frequently these type of situations and might experience consequences which we don't know anything about yet? Quite possibly people, our youth especially, need not to be overwhelmed by depression, a sense of impotence, by low levels of hope, but they will have to be prepared to face this very harsh reality. We definitely need instruments, the most recent ones, but also new instruments. And then, as I was thinking of all this, to my mind came the words of St. Augustine, the motto of this conference. Hope has two beautiful children, anger and courage. The former about how things go, and the latter how to change them. So I told myself that at least we must sell our hide at a high price. Hence, I've put all the pieces together, and I want to present you the data that we have collected, which I must say have comforted me somewhat and enabled me to come up with some possible answers to the question, what can we do? And so, we need adaptability, we need hope, we need career preparedness. At least some of the things that we can use, which have already been focused on in this conference. I don't want to repeat myself. We know what hope is, the feeling that we can have a place in this world, even if we can find it through hard work. The colleagues that have spoken before me have described adaptability wholly and completely. As to preparedness, it means to be prepared. To be prepared to cope with obstacles, to benefit from opportunities. But what obstacles? The obstacles that have to do with very hard scenarios like increased poverty, increased unemployment, recognizing the signs of pessimism and lack of hope, being prepared to analyze the consequences that we have not yet seen, and grasping all the signs of the downgrading of work. We have administered instruments that analyze hope for the future, career adaptability, which you know very well, and an instrument on career preparedness that examines the ability to foresee obstacles, flexibility, commitment, sacrifice, vigilance, perseverance, exploration, investment in education. The results we achieved are quite comforting, because they are in line with expectations and with the results of other researchers. I will not dwell on them. Hope seems to provide the substratum for adaptability, and that provides a drive to achieve greater career preparedness. And these are the figures. And now I'm coming to the conclusion of my presentation. What can we do? I think we can do several things that I would add to those already expressed by many colleagues in this conference. We need to work on some variables, avoiding to fool, so to speak, the young generations, to expose them without preparing them first, to a labour market that thinks they are cannon fodder, avoiding to get them to write curricula without reflectivity, as Jean Guichard said the other day, to dish out propaganda to them on work and education contexts. They must be well prepared. What we could do is to teach the younger generations to evaluate the situations they are experiencing, to describe them in a realistic manner, and to understand the consequences of the situations we are experiencing today. We might have to depress them a bit more, to make them really angry, so as to build their energies up, to enable them to focus on their own projects, on their own ideas if they have any, on what they think is really important, as was also said yesterday by Professor Van Vianen. I think adaptability is definitely an extremely interesting instrument to help people think about their future, to anticipate their futures. But which futures, one could ask? Also the negative futures. It is not sure that we will have rosy futures. Social growths that may be different, not necessarily as wonderful and positive as we all expect. Also those that suffer greater poverty, that will suffer greater poverty, in working contexts with the characteristics that we have already seen, and they could get even worse. We must add details to make things more real. Make young people understand that they could be second, third, last, we were saying yesterday. What could help us if we are last, if we are second, if we are third? And hence the words that were echoed earlier on, or even mentioned yesterday in the plenary session: cooperation, reciprocity, solidarity, curiosity. Curiosity is an interesting instrument that can help the younger generations explore work realities by encouraging them to listen to workers, find out who these people really are. These people sometimes find themselves working a tremendous lot. Those who work nowadays aren't working an 8-hour day, but a 12-hour day, because people are either working too much or not at all. And then, what is the viewpoint of employers? Those who are sensitive people who care for the workers they employ, but also those that are some sort of delinquents who employ and then fire their employees as they please, thinking in an unconventional way. Things must not necessarily continue like that. What could happen if such conditions were to change? And what can I do to change these conditions? And then propensity to rebellion. Professor Soresi said that the worst of all things is being indifferent. To allow such a situation to be accepted, and to accept it, without thinking that it is not right. We must prevent the young generations from withdrawing into themselves. And then I want to mention confidence, attention to prejudice, increased discrimination, stereotypes which are all around us, and most of all, we must start to do something. We must start doing, because we cannot procrastinate forever. And we researchers too must decide to do the things that can be done today without procrastination. People need indications now. And then make a list of strengths, with the idea that those strengths can be used in this context. I am now coming to the end of my talk. I really would expect all of this to help the new generations create different futures, come up with new ideas, build new hope, give value to human work, support solidarity and equity, which are not inborn characteristics, but rather need to be strengthened in people. And perhaps with the help of optimistic, positive, brave, gutsy counselors, we should help others, as Jean Guichard has already put this issue on the carpet. Perhaps we should help others think of the society we would like, help others with this before thinking of the work they would like to do. Thank you very much for your attention.